Hi, this is the third of 5 short talks on how to save the world, entitled Solving the Economic Environmental Crisis. We're not trying to fix the crisis, we're trying to solve it for the long term. And so we began in the first talk by looking at the long term, going all the way back to the beginning of life, 3.8 billion years ago, and we represented that expanse of time from the past to the present by our arms, the tips of our fingers on our left hand, 3.8 billion years ago, and the tips of the fingers on the right hand, our present. And then we looked at the 3 million years of human existence, which can be represented simply by the last 16th of an inch of the fingernail on the right hand. Very, very small in relation to the expanse of life. Even smaller than that, we looked at the next phase of the next talk on the 20,000 years that precede the present. That can be represented by simply filing our fingernails. A minuscule amount compared to the 3.8 billion years of life existence on the planet. And yet in that 20,000 years, we have decreased world wildlife volume by about 70%. And about 20,000 years ago, as we started to permanently settle down and build permanent structures, houses, plazas, roads, high-rises, airports, etc., they became the basis for our economic system. We build a house, it must be filled with objects, appliances, furniture, cooking equipment, and so forth. That the basis of our economy, however, is in making things, using those things like stoves and engines, flying things, driving things, and basically all pollution is caused by making things, flying things, driving things, etc. So our economy is based on destroying the natural environment, and we pay people to do it. So now we want to look at economics, at the economic system, and see if there's something flawed in that we must change in order to make the world sustainable. So what is an economy? Economy is simply a means for beings to exchange goods and services. And humans have exchanged goods and services for the entire 3 million years of our existence. At first, it was simply communal. Everybody shared everything. If you happened to be a good hunter and you brought back food, you shared it with everybody. If someone else was a musician and someone else was good at keeping the fire going and someone else is good at raising children, everybody shared equally. And then at some point, we became a barter society where, as we got larger, someone said, well, you know, I'd like to trade. I'm good at making arrows, but I'm not very good at making bows. And someone else who's good at making bows said, I need arrows. And so they would say, I'll give you a bow for 5 arrows or whatever. And we entered a barter society where we bartered between things. And that worked as long as the two parties to the barter had things that the other wanted. But if you get, as society gets larger and you want something that not the person next to you has, but somebody in the next town makes, and they don't want what you make, we then incorporated a token, money. So the token represented a certain amount of value. And there are 2 ways that may have come about. One is, well, I want to sell you these sheep, and I need the money now. So you give me the money, and I will give you this token which represents the sheep that you want to buy. The other came about from, let's say, a hunter coming back from a hunt with a deer over his shoulder, and the community runs out to greet him, and he says, no, wait a second, I've put in a lot of time and effort. I've endured coldness and days away from safety, and I brought this deer back, and I'd like something in exchange for it. And so I said, well, we've always given you, baskets and pots. And he said, yeah, I know that's fine, but I mean, my house is full of baskets and pots. I want something else. And so again, he came up with a coin. If you give me a coin that represents the amount of hours you spent in making the basket or the pot, then I can redeem that for those hours later on in something that I want. And so we entered into a monetary system which progressed until, relatively very successfully, in fact, for thousands of years. When we got to about 250 years ago from the present, society became so complex that we started to develop economic systems by which to manage the exchange of goods and services. And the reason that happened is because 250 years ago, we figured out how to get nature to help us in our destruction of nature. It was called the Industrial Revolution. It was basically harnessing coal and later oil to run machines that performed other things that humans had done by hand previously, whether that was building the pyramids or the cathedrals or whatever. Continue on from there to the last 100 years. You have now several economic systems. You have capitalism, socialism, communism, and a whole bunch of others trying to explain it. But they're all basically the same thing. That is, it's how to or use natural resources for the benefits of humans. So our economy is based on, no matter what the economic system is based on the destruction of nature for the benefit of humans. But is that really what an economy is? If we look at the long term and go back to the beginning of life and through those 3.8 billion years, I mean, the entire environment is an economy, isn't it? That all beings exchange goods and services. That in our exchange system, we have money, but in the natural economy, we have the media of exchange are air and water. That beings use air and water to exchange goods and services with one another. So in both of those economic systems, that natural economic system and the human economic system, the media of exchange are neutral. They can be used for a number of things. If it's water, you can live in it, you can drink it, you can avoid it. You use little of it, you can use plenty of it. Air, some you fly in it, some simply breathe it. Money becomes what you want it to represent. But the similarity ends there. The difference really is that with money is unique to humans, that no other species, no other entity on the globe can use it, whereas the media of exchange is available to every being on the planet. And the second thing is that money can be, because it doesn't rot, because it's neutral, it can be withheld. Now think of an animal, say, that could withhold air and water if it wanted to control an environment. It said, well, if you don't do so and so, I will deprive you of the necessity for existence. Well, we have that in the monetary system, that people who accumulate, they can accumulate money and they can withhold it until others perform what they want them to do. So you create a hierarchy, you create a system where those with money, as you remember, we go back, money can represent the hours spent in producing something. So they have that money and they can buy people's time. And you can imagine that if in the natural world some animal said, no, I'm not going to give you air and water until you do ... it wouldn't work. The system would fall apart. But that works in our system. As a result of that, we have the construction of the cathedrals. We have wars where we're paying people to do our bidding, to go off and risk their lives. That we have this power structure based on money that sort of indicates that there is a dominance game going on. Not only humans dominating nature, but humans dominating other humans. And if we look at our salaries and incomes in whether it's socialist, communist, or capitalist system, men are paid much, much more than women. And so we have a male-oriented economic system, which has led to all sorts of expenditures for things that males are inclined towards: war, rockets, and the economic system seems male-oriented and is male-oriented. And so in the next talk, we're going to look at gender and see if perhaps it's gender which is the cause of our environmental decline and what we can do about it. Thank you.